It's great to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you with your bright, smiling face and all the pretty people in here. But the prettiest one is not here today.
No, that's right.
Meyer's here.
Oh. Welcome, Commissioner. Perfect time.
Welcome.
All right. It is now 10:15 and all the commissioners have a seat, including Commissioner Coleman. Welcome back from
Thank you.
Your surgery, and
Thank
glad
you,
to
sir.
see you. Glad it went very well. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
So before we begin, today is the 27th of September. This is our agenda meeting for the Missouri Public Service Commission. Ask everyone that's on the phone to please mute yourselves unless you need to speak, so as everyone else can hear conversations. Today there are 4 tariffs and new orders, but before we dive into that, we have to approve the minutes from the September 21st, 2023 agenda. Those have been distributed in advance. Commissioners, are there any changes, corrections, or questions about those minutes? Hearing none, I'll make a motion we approve the minutes from the September 21st, 2023 agenda. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That's approved by a vote of 5-0. Moving right on into tariffs and new orders, we have file number AW-2023-0156. The matter of the working case regarding utility actions related to securing funding for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021 and the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Back on August 15th, Public Counsel filed a request that the Commission order the investor-owned utilities to file status reports providing all attempts to obtain federal funding through the IIJA and the IRA success at obtaining those funds in each their plans to utilize the obtained funds. Responses to the Public Counsel's motion were received from Ameren, Missouri and Evergy, Missouri. Both Ameren, Missouri and Evergy, Missouri responded to Public Counsel's motion, indicated they supported the motion. Therefore, this order will grant Public Counsel's motion and direct status reports due no later than October 31st. Is 31st correct on that one? It is. I had October 3st, so it was either October 3rd or October 31st. So I believe it's October 31st. So I would recommend we approve that order version number 2. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Olson.
I support the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I support the order.
Commissioner Allen.
I also support the order. The order also does have a provision that states that the utilities can file updates at any time. They don't have to wait for an order, which I think would be helpful so that we don't have to continuously revisit that here if the utilities would be so willing to do that. So look forward to supporting this order.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. All those in favor of supporting that order version number 2, please say aye.
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 Approved by a vote of 5-0. Next up, file number ET-2024-0061. The matter of the joint application of Evergy Metro Inc., DBA Evergy Missouri Metro and Evergy Missouri West for approval of tariff revisions to the TOU. So back on September 18th, Evergy filed an amended application withdrawing its proposed tariff changes, except Evergy continues to request a approval to change the default TOU rate in its tariffs from the higher differential 2-period TOU rate to the lower differential peak adjustment TOU rate. Evergy also stated that it will change the names of the higher differential residential time of use 2-period rate and the lower differential residential peak adjustment service rate. Filed substitute tariff sheets on September 21st to implement its amended application. Then on September 25th, staff and the OPC reiterated their objections to the application. Staff maintains that Evergy is seeking single issue rate making and that Evergy must file a general rate case to receive its relief requests. OPC states that Evergy is attempting a collateral attack on report and order in Evergy's last general rate case. OPC further objects to Evergy's motion for expedited treatment and a waiver of the Commission's 60-day notice rule. And on September 25th, Evergy withdrew the tariff sheets that were inconsistent with the amended application. So the order before us, presented to the Commission today, would approve the amended application and tariffs. We talked about this last week. Basically, my thoughts here, because we have 2 issues. We have a policy issue and we have a procedural issue. The policy issue on changing the default rate, I'm not opposed to that piece. Something we talked about when we were designing these. Reason we went with the high differential was because the math showed that it was where customers would save the most money. But I understand that there's some concern over a lot of misinformation that's been out there, and maybe this will maybe help alleviate some of that misplaced fear and stuff. And so you can make a policy argument that, yeah, it would be in the best interest if we went ahead with this policy decision. Not a fan of how we got here. Misinformation about this and whether or not this will change that. We don't want people to have misplaced fear. We want people to understand that they have choice and they have opportunities to save money. So if this policy change does alleviate any of that concern that has been percolating out there, whether it be misplaced or not, then I think you could make a good policy argument that, yeah, this will be the thing. The procedural side, I have more concerns with. I touched on those last week. You could make arguments that, yeah, this is a collateral attack. Could make arguments that Evergy failed to identify the legal authority the commission has. And you could make arguments that the amended application doesn't take into consideration all relevant factors. So for me personally, I have to decide, how am I going to support on this? And I think at the end of the day, I probably will not be able to support it because of how we got here, the reasons that we got here, the procedure that we got here, and whether or not the fact that this will even alleviate any of the misplaced concerns out of that. But I understand the arguments on both sides on that. But what the order before us today does, it does approve those amended tariffs. And I'm really interested to hear what my other fellow commissioners have to say. So Commissioner Coleman.
So, Mr. Chairman, I oppose the order on procedural grounds. I share the objections shared by staff and by the Office of Public Counsel in their recent filings. In addition, I'm concerned that considerations other than what's best for consumers has played a role in getting this order before us today. We all know that consumers are facing unprecedented financial burdens on every front. And unfortunately, it is more difficult than ever for consumers and even some in official positions to separate facts from fear-fueled speculation and misinformation. As someone who is a creature of habit and isn't a big fan of online and technology-based changes, I understand why people would be hesitant to embrace something that will require them to pay close attention to when they're consuming energy. I've had to deal with this myself in St. Louis with my utility company, and it can be a challenge. I also understand why people on fixed incomes and those living paycheck to paycheck would be worried about a change to their utility bill. I know exactly what that struggle is like because I lived that struggle as a single mother raising 3 children and monitoring every nickel and dime to make every dollar stretch. I also know that I had to make adjustments to my routines so that I could maximize savings where possible. This is what time of use rates will allow consumers to do, maximize their savings. I won't lie to you and say that it won't require being mindful about when you do your laundry or run your dishwasher so that you can get the most bang for your buck. I also acknowledge that Evergy and the Commission can and must do better to provide consumers with tools needed to learn how to identify which activities and shifts can result in the most savings. This is why the Commission recently approved Order EW 2023 0199 to establish consumer use of time of use transition reporting requirements. Regardless of what happens with today's order, there will still be a need for improved clarity and communications to ensure that Evergy consumers understand how to make the time of use rates work in their favor. And I'm committed to doing my part to make that happen. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Again, great to have you. Great to have you here. Commissioner
Thank
Holzman.
you.
Was the only no vote on the original underlying order that came through. I have publicly stated numerous times why I voted no, the two principles being that I felt that the default rate was too aggressive for payers who didn't have smart technology. If you don't have an Ecobee or a Nest, to go over and manually move your magnetic thermostat over if you're low income or you're a senior citizen, it's just not feasible for them to do that every day from 4 to 8. And the second reason was I didn't feel like there was a plan for net metered customers for distributed generation. I felt they should have options as well. That's what the law states. And I think that I'm hopeful that in future rate cases that will be addressed in some fashion, that net metered customers will get the benefit of savings as well as everyone else. But I also believe you don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. And from my original position of saying that the high differential default rate was too aggressive, not that I'm opposed to time of use, this change defaulting to the low differential, which gives everybody an opportunity to move into one of the high differentials once they're educated or once they've adopted smart technology, preserves the time of use concept without instituting that initial potential pain, financial pain that some of these citizens will undoubtedly go through. So this change is a policy change for the better if you support time of use, which I do. So for that reason, and I don't discount, I want to say that I don't discount the procedural discussion. I'm not saying that staff and OPC don't have their position, but I also don't believe that the commission should be shackled by inflexibility when we get new information that could potentially help benefit ratepayers that we were all appointed to support. When I weigh the balance between procedure and policy, and given the fact that I think that this policy change is a better direction for time of use success, I'm going to weigh in on the side of policy and on the side of ratepayers and on the side of protecting what I think is a vulnerable population from those potential financial pains. So I'm going to support this order, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you very much for your comments. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to disagree with you or the other two commissioners that's come before. This has been a big mess, if you will. It really has. The reason why I supported it in the first place was because it gave the consumer choice. And apparently, I'm not sure what's happened, but that's not getting communicated, and that has come back on us that we're demanding they stick this out. I've had numerous people tell me that they're locked into these rates, this TOU for life. And the misinformation out there is just through the roof. And I believe this is one step in helping, not saying right or wrong, I'm just saying for the people out there, for the consumer out there to ease into this lower differential, I believe is the way to go. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will be supporting this order.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Hahn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand and appreciate the arguments that have brought forward this morning on both procedure and policy. To speak directly to Commissioner Kolkmeyer, and I know that it's been mentioned before, I'm thankful that this order does keep the consumers' choices intact. Following this order, nothing about that will have changed. Do think that the educational efforts are working. This past Friday, Evergy's updated filing shows that nearly 100,000 customers have made an affirmative choice on what their rate should be. I think that is a very high watermark as far as consumer education and people being able to choose what rate plan would best fit their needs for their family. I understand a little bit behind the misinformation. I did have an opportunity to go to the Evergy call center and listen firsthand to people calling into the Evergy time of use team. I could hear educated consumers calling in to affirmatively say which plan they wanted. I could hear consumers express concern about the plans offered. And I could also understand firsthand why consumers could be confused. Even very educated call center customer representatives have to explain rate plans with multiple different levels, columns. So if you choose, for example, you have 2 meters on your home, and you choose different rate plans for each of those meters, then that's basically 8 different rates at several different times, depending on the time. And so I understand where the average consumer may not understand all those things. And sometimes I think if you don't understand things clearly, it can create fear. And I do think that is what has happened in this particular case. I think the one thing that we can do to calm consumers' fears is to take the default rate from the high differential to the low differential, which is closest to what people feel comfortable with and what they're used to while preserving time of use as an underlying principle. In this, specifically in this amended application, I'm thankful that the names are being changed to help people understand that the Peak Reward Saver is the default, and that will help people understand that it is close to their what they're used to. And then the high differential will be the summer peak time base plan. I also want to highlight on the procedure side, this request does not change any rates or the price of electricity, only the default rate, which is already approved by the commission. And it really only changes the language that determines what TOU rate is first applied to customers who do not have that affirmative choice, specifically choosing a TOU rate. My understanding is that when those rates were designed, in the case, any combination of TOU rate choices among the portfolio of options would have allowed the company to recover costs necessary to meet its revenue requirement. And as a result, would result in just and reasonable rates. Changing the default should have no impact on that. I am thankful to you, Mr. Chair, for allowing this to come forward today and for discussion. And I really appreciate my fellow commissioners engaging in this conversation with me. With that, I'll be supporting the order.
Okay, great. All right, before we call the vote, I want to end on a positive note. Everybody had great comments here today, and everybody's well thought on these excellent points. And at the end of the day, consumers are still going to have more choices than they have ever had as far as the utility rates. The single mom will have the opportunity, if they choose, to go ahead and try to save 15, 20 bucks a month while she's using the same amount of energy. That might be shin guards for their son's soccer team or an extra birthday gift, which could mean the world to them. So what we have done is we've allowed the customers to have more options to save money, more control over their energy. And Commissioner Hahn, you said there's over 100,000. I mean, by the time this gets implemented, it could be 125, 150,000. That is a huge number of households that have went in, made a choice that was best for them and their family, And, they're choosing all different plans. I mean, it's not just the default, it's not just the high differential. Some are being super aggressive. At the end of the day, they're making a choice that they feel is the best for their family. So when we take a step back, what we've accomplished here and what is happening, it is really giving consumers an option, giving them to save money, and you're having a highly educated consumer. And I'm very proud of this commission and what we've done in the company. I beat up on the company a lot. It's kind of our job sometimes. But at the end of the day, you have 100,000 people that have made a choice, and they have good tools. They can go and they can get their information, see that. And the companies had to deal with the misinformation as well. I mean, they're not putting it out there. Maybe some of the stuff they put out in response to some of the different, we could discuss on that. But a lot of the different information is not coming from the commission. It's not coming from the company and stuff. And they're trying their best, as we are, to try to educate people that is there. But at the end of the day, that many people that have made it a choice that is excellent and stuff. Commissioner Holden, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to take a second and echo a point that Commissioner Hahn just made, and that is to commend you as our chair. We all come from the legislative background, and we're very familiar with the procedure when a chairman doesn't like a vote. He just doesn't bring it up for exec session. And it's rare, and it's a testament to your character, that you're going to be on the opposite side, a losing side, a minority position on a vote that you very easily could have just buried and not brought before us. So I want to publicly thank you for having the character to, and the leadership, quite frankly, to be in the minority vote on a very important issue and to still allow it to come forward, because as former legislators, that doesn't happen very often.
Very kind. I definitely want this to be a process.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Kochmeyer.
Yes, I want to just echo those same comments that Commissioner Holzman just put out. Here again, I want to thank you as well for bringing this forward to hopefully get this straightened out, and maybe the fear out there and the consumers to calm down and die down. So here again, I want to thank you.
No problem. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate everybody's hard work and detail and research and thoughts gone into this. So with that, I would make a motion and approve version 3 of this order. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? No.
No.
That issue is passed by a vote of 3-2. Moving right along, we got file number WR 2023-0006 in the matter of the Confluence River Utility Operating Company's request for authority to implement a general rate increase for water service and sewer service provided in their Missouri service areas. So back on August 29th, staff filed a unanimous partial stipulation and agreement. This first agreement addressed a total of 14 issues listed under the heading of revenue increases. On September 1st, staff and Confluence Rivers filed a non-unanimous partial stipulation and agreement. The second agreement settled a total of 6 issues. No responses or objections to the second agreement filed. The commission will treat it as unanimous. For reviewing the first agreement and the second agreement, the commission determines that their terms are a reasonable solution of the issues addressed by each agreement. They will result in just and reasonable rates and should be approved. Therefore, this order will approve the first agreement and the second agreement. When do we approve this order, version number 1? Commissioner Coleman?
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman?
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kochmeyer?
I'm in support.
Commissioner Hahn?
Also in support.
All those in favor of supporting that order, please say aye.
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 Approved by a vote of 5-0. And our final one today is file number GR 2022-0135 in the matter of Spire, Missouri. Spire East Purchase Gas Adjustment PGA tariff filing. Staff of the commission filed a recommendation for Spire East 2020 to 2021 ACA filing on December 15th. Staff's recommendation does not recommend any monetary adjustments, but it does make some non-monetary comments about Spire East reliability analysis and their gas supply and Spire East decisions during Winter Storm Uri and Spire East hedging practices. Spire East filed a response of staff's recommendation on January 19th agreeing with and accepting staff's recommendation and comments. The commission held this case in abeyance pending the outcome of Spire East 2019 to 2020. Order in that proceeding became effective September 2nd. Spire East has filed a notice of final ACA balances in this proceeding on September 15th. In response, staff filed its second ACA recommendation stating that the commission should approve Spire East ACA balances as contained in Spire, Missouri's notice. Therefore, this order establishes the ending over recovery balance for Spire East 2020 to 2021 actual cost adjustment for its Spire Missouri East operating unit. I would recommend that we approve this order, version number 2. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holden.
I'm supporting the order.
Commissioner Copeland.
I support the order.
Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support.
Great. All those in favor of supporting that order, version number 2, please say aye.
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 By a vote of 5-0. Moving right on to scheduling, we got agenda at 10:15 a.m. on Wednesday, October 4th. So that's agenda at 10:15 on Wednesday, October 4th. Friday, October 6th, we have an evidentiary hearing in EC 2023-0395, Brett Felber complainant versus Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren. That is a WebEx only hearing starting at 9 a.m. Thursday, October 12th, we have our agenda at noon. Then we have an evidentiary hearing that same day. That is in WO 2024-0036, petition for an interim receiver and for an order directing the general counsel to petition the circuit court for the appointment of receiver of Misty Waterworks. And that will be at 9 a.m. in room 310 at commission headquarters. Then on Thursday, October 19th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Wednesday, October 25th, agenda at 10:15 a.m. Thursday, the 26th of October, we have an evidentiary hearing in case WC-2023-0142, Michael A. Goad versus Missouri American Water Company. And that will be in room 310, Commission's headquarters, starting at 9 a.m. on the 26th. Then on Wednesday, November 1st, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Is there any questions, comments, or about scheduling or anything from the commissioners for the good of the order?
I do have some comments, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Okay, based on the case that we just went over with Evergy and the comments made by people, not just people, but these lovely other commissioners and Commissioner Kochmeyer about how marvelous and wonderful you are, and how, any other person would have kind of ignored the will of what the majority of commissioners wanted and kind of just ignored this and covered it up. I just want to say that although, 4 of us current commissioners came from the legislature, and we have a young lady over here who worked considerably amount of time at the state capitol and at the governor's office. We are different than the legislature. And I want to believe that during my tenure here, I've had 4 chairmen, and we've always tried to look at things as a nonpartisan environment, not taking into consideration which party a person came from and who was in the governor's office. I actually recall a time that it was suggested that we split the secretaries here into those who worked for Republican commissioners and those who worked for Democratic commissioners. Bill Kinney was here at the time, and he and I shot that down immediately. We never want this commission to seem like or to behave in such a way as the legislature does, because the decisions that we make are not based on partisanship. They're based on evaluations and evidentiary hearings and evidence in what's presented by the company, the interveners, the Office of Public Counsel. And so I can appreciate the accolades to you, and I appreciate your hard work here, but I also want the general public to understand that the commission, from my perspective, has always behaved in such a manner that the job is not to ignore what's right and what's important, and to bring everything before this commission, put it out there in the public, and do what we're supposed to do. So I can second the comments to you, but I also want folks to know that your extraordinary work is the type of extraordinary work you're supposed to be doing as chairman.
Very well said.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
why you're the
Chairman.
matriarch of this commission.
The matriarch, okay.
No, very well said. Yeah, it's every commissioner here is important, whether or not they have a chairman and stuff, and it's about doing what's best for the people, regardless of our own personal things. So I wouldn't even have thought about that. And that you're right. Everyone that gets the opportunity to be a chairman should consider that. And we don't allow partisan politics, and we really don't allow politics in here. And there's been more politics interjected in people trying to, tell us what to do and stuff than there has on any other issues. So that this is the best time for us to really be a shining example of how to operate ourselves. So, and again, I'm going to say the third time, it's so good to have you. And nothing else coming before the commission. That is all we have today. Thank you for your time and attention. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.